Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. Welcome to my very first podcast, which is we call Let's Talk Marriage, the podcast. My name is Chris, and we'll be dealing with all things marriage from a Christian point of view and from a worldly point of view. Couples face a lot of challenges in their marriages, so I thought I'll start something that's going to help someone out there in their marriage, in their relationship. They don't necessarily have to be married, but they could be living together. They could be cohabiting with someone else. But it's all, a union. So, and all these rules will apply. We deal with from a Christian setting where the Bible talks about marriage, and we deal with from a worldly setting, of course, which is similar, but so that no one feels left out of it, and someone will be helped out there, and hopefully, it will touch someone. Subscribe to my channel, and let's see how we get on. We will first deal with issues in the marriage. Why marriages fail, how marriages succeed, God's view on marriages. We'll deal with things like love, sex, and lasting relationships. We'll deal with setting aside marriage time. We'll deal with things like how kids affect your marriage and what to do when you're bogged down in your work. How you do to treat your spouse in a marriage. Let's deal with what God says about marriage. Firstly, it says, it is not good for man to be alone. I will make him a helper. So we deal with the first, when we all started with Adam. Adam was on his own, and God put him to sleep. He took out of his womb, he took out a rib, and he made a woman. So it's called the womb man. So God made a helper for him because he saw that it was not good for man to be alone. So he made him a helper. And through that, from Adam generation to generation, that's why we have all come into existence. And from that, we know that a woman is a helper. So when you get into a marriage, obviously you've got to find someone who is a helper, who will help you in your relationship, who will help you in which, the direction you need to go. God has to be in the marriage for it to work. First and foremost, it has to be God, because in the beginning, there was God. So in everything that we do, we have to put God first. We have to put God in the marriage, God in finding the right partner, God in the issues in your marriage, whatever that you're going through, always put God in it. And always remember, again, it says in the book of Isaiah, God hates divorce. So God doesn't want you to divorce. God wants you to enjoy your marriage. God wants you to cherish the marriage. God wants you to be happy in what you're doing, so that you can enjoy the benefits of that marriage that has been put for you out there. So, but again, obviously, it doesn't mean that because God hates divorce that you've got to stay in a marriage that you're not happy with, is training or in whatever way. Obviously, if there's issues in the marriage, what I suggest is, of course, seek help, seek counseling, find out how to improve that marriage. And, obviously, and as you do that, you as a spouse, whether it's you, the man, or you, the woman, that will improve your marriage, and that will push you in the right direction that you need to go. So I want to deal with the things like the challenges you face in the marriage, coming from different backgrounds. When you start off, you need to know your partner. Basics, obviously, is you got to know the background the person is coming from. You got to know how, what they are, how they are. You got to do your research. You got to pray. Obviously, you got to be a prayerful person. You got to prayerfully look for the right partner who will enhance your marriage, who will obviously bring the best out of you. So obviously, that's very important in finding the right person. Whatever background they come from, how are they, how are their parents, how was their upbringing, things like even what schools they went to. Are you going to have a meeting of minds with that person? How are you going to relate to them? Is this person, do you see yourself being with this person up until the day you die? Because obviously we know that it says, till death do us part. When you looking for the right person, of course, counseling is very important. If you're going to get into a marriage, you got to obviously go for counseling in the first instance. You got to date that person. You got to court them. Find out what they like. Find out what their likes and dislikes are. Find out what makes them tick. Talk about stuff. How do they handle money? How do they, what are their ideas about having children. How many children do you want to have? Are you going to have any savings? Are you helping out at home? Like if you're, like, I don't know, come from abroad, so to speak, and you have elderly parents who need your help, and you've been helping them before you got married. What happens when you get married? Do you carry on helping them? At what point do you? How much of that is it going to continue the same way? Is it going to go reduce a bit just because you're in a marriage now and there's got other needs? Does the other person also help out with their parents, so to speak, or with their elderly parents, or even with their brothers and sisters who are less privileged than them? How much money do you put aside for that? How do they feel, your partner? How does he feel about you helping out? Because obviously you got to be upfront, you got to talk about it, you got to bring them into the relationship, into that mix, so that they know that you are doing that. You're not doing it secretly behind their back, so to speak. Are you going to put money on the side? You're going to put money on the kitty so that when it's on a rainy day, how do you, then you're going to draw from that. Are you going to have any investments? Are you going to invest in, I don't know, properties maybe? Or are you going to buy land? Or, do you know what I mean? How many do you want to advance? Maybe buy one house and buy another? Are you going to put money into shares and stocks and shares? Are you going to put money into savings account that will earn you a dividend, so to speak? When you get married, who does the house chores? Do you share the house the chores? Do you that's just the wife? If it's the wife, is she the one who does all the cooking? Does she do all the cleaning? Do you help out as the man? Who pays for the bills in the house? Do you share the bills? Because I know, like, living abroad, a lot of people who live abroad, and having lived abroad myself for so many years, you find that you don't talk about things of who is going to pay what. You assume that as the man, you got to do everything. Or maybe the woman assumes that as the man, you're doing most of the things. You don't talk about it. You need to talk about who's going to pay for what, at what point. And if the man is just paying everything, or are you going to go 50-50, so to speak? When you go out for dinner, when you go for meals, who is footing the bill? Or I pay for the bill for the restaurant, so to speak. You pay for the cab, or things like that. Or I pay for the drinks and you pay for the food. So it's communication in that sense is very important. Otherwise, if you don't communicate, it's going to be very difficult, because one person will be assuming the other one is supposed to do or is doing. And then when the other person doesn't do it, it brings a lot of strain. And that's not what you want from a marriage. You don't want to be in a position where the other person is angry. They don't know why you're angry. They don't know why you're not communicating properly. And it's very important that you understand each other. You understand where the other person is coming from. You understand why they're doing the things they do, in terms of, especially if, for instance, you meet someone and they're set in their ways, and these ways that they're doing things, and you don't understand why they do the things they do, and you're not communicating to find out, why are you doing this? Why is this? This is how I'm supposed to, this is how I do things. So before you get married, very important to talk about stuff, little things like, even like, I leave my shoes here. This is how I like to do the bed. This is how when I wash the plates, I want them to, do you know what I mean? I put them in the drawer in this sense. I'm probably not one of the tidiest people, but if you meet someone and they're very tidy, and you don't understand why they're tidy, and your untidiness makes them upset or doesn't, it rattles them. So it's important that these are the things you talk about, so that they know that either you're like this, you're not a very tidy person. So even if they're kind of cleaning after you, so to speak, which it shouldn't be really, they don't get upset because you've left stuff there, or they don't get angry because they think you've left stuff lying around because you don't care. And you're thinking to yourself as a man, or even as a woman, the place is untidy, or I've left this is how I would do it if I was on my own, without thinking about the other person, what they would think, why they've done it the way they do. Or they're tidy and you're wondering, what's the big deal if I leave it lying around? So if you don't talk about it, then it will bring a lot of strain to the relationship. And it, of course, this is where things start going wrong. And you find that a lot of people, when they go for counseling, or when there's someone who comes and talks about maybe the relationship is strained in a way, when you hear the conversations that people have, or the reason why things are not working out. They're very, very trivial, very, very, very small things. But these small things are the ones that cause marriage to have issues, because if you don't sort out the small things, then they become big, and in the end, you're not able to sort them out because you didn't tackle it in the beginning. You didn't nip it in the bud. You didn't stop to look out to ask your spouse why she's behaving or he's behaving the way he is. Why that is important for them. That little thing that you're doing or not doing, even that is that rattles them. And then the more you do it, or the more you think that it's only a small thing, the more it gets bigger and bigger, and by the time it's solved, then it becomes a problem. Then it's a bigger problem that now is a problem. That now other people have to get involved. That now you gotta go for counseling now, and then the counseling, like I said, is something you want to do in the beginning, so that you all know where you are when you start off. You're all starting off on an even keel. You're starting off at par together. Do you want to move in as the other partner into their house? Or are you both going to move into a new place together, so that you're both coming from a place where it's the unknown? You're coming in here and I'm coming in here, and we don't know. This is new to us, and we're going to build it and we're going to make it our home. Because I find that if one person has a place and the other person moves into the place that this person had, the person who was living there, if it's the wife, for instance, she was living there, and you move in as the man into this person, you end up feeling like maybe this is their place, this is their own, and if they don't make you feel comfortable, you find that you feel like an outsider, because they probably still do things the way they were doing them. I leave my stuff lying around like this, so they still expect that. And you end up like feeling like walking on eggshells, because you're thinking, oh no, this is not my place, maybe I find you here, or maybe you find that when there's an argument, for instance, they'll make it look like, this is my place, and so on. And even though maybe you're pitching in with the rent or pitching in with the bills, so to speak, they'll still feel that it's their own. So if you both move into a neutral place that it's for the two of you, then it makes a lot of difference, because then you make it your own. You do it the way you want to do it, and you set things properly. How are friendships with an ex? Once you get married, do you still communicate with your ex? Are you still friends with them, so to speak? So it's important to have that communication. It depends on how long you were apart before you met this person you're now married to. Were you apart with a different partner for a long time? Did you heal from the other relationship before you got into this new one? Have you still got hang-ups from the previous relationship, which might bring issues into your new relationship? But that obviously I mean that you might find that you might be comparing your new partner, new husband or wife to a previous person, because you think, they're not doing something the way that maybe the other guy or the other girl used to do, or so-and-so used to do this, so-and-so was like this, and you're thinking maybe you're expecting them to be similar to them or to do things the same way, and that's, and your spouse might see that. You might not necessarily say it verbally, but your partner might see it. They might say, okay, maybe they're trying to compare me with someone else, maybe someone else who was there previously, and that can bring a strain in the marriage if one's not careful. So, and then again, if you're constantly comparing them to a previous relationship, then it means first you haven't got over completely the old person, and then secondly, if he was that good, then how come you're not with them, so to speak? Do you know what I mean? You split with someone because maybe something didn't work in that relationship or that marriage. So obviously you move on to a new person because you want to make things better. You don't want to repeat the same mistakes that you did in the previous relationship, so to speak, because you want to become a better person. You've obviously learned from it, and you've taken the good points out of it, and now you're moving on to bigger things. You're going to better things. You want to make your new partner, you want to make your new spouse in this case, you want to make them happy. At what point in the marriage are you going to start having children? Are you going to leave it first 2-3 years before you have children? Are you going to straight away go into having children? Obviously, it's always a good thing to wait maybe a couple of years, get to know your spouse, date them, wine them, dine them. Even in a marriage, obviously you gotta date the person, you gotta date them, you gotta find, you need to get to know them before the kids come in. Or maybe you wanna study before having a family, but obviously having kids, you wanna set yourself up. You don't necessarily have to. Both of you can start from scratch in terms of you might not necessarily have a lot when you start off. So you can build from not having anything or having a little, build yourself, maybe career, study a bit more, set yourself up before and then you start having a family. Or obviously, maybe it's a job, you already have a job, or maybe you already have a career. Maybe set yourself up financially, or make sure that you're working hard enough to provide for your spouse, so that when the kids come, so to speak, you don't have to do as much, which will take you away from the family and the kids. Because I've seen from experience that you get couples who, when you start having a family, because there's so much, maybe the standards of living are high, and there's so much pressure from having to pay the bills, the mortgage, the rent, the whatever it is. And then the spouse will, one of them, probably the man in this case, it could be the woman as well, because it depends on who's bringing in more income or who's got more of a stable job, or how you decide when you start off. You find that you might be working really hard. And because of that, it brings a strain in the marriage, because you don't have enough time to spend at home with your spouse, with your family. You don't give them enough time you want. You're out there providing for them, so to speak, all the time. And then you forget that in this provision, you need also to spend time with them, not necessarily financially as well. They need to see you. They need to spend time with you. They need to know you, So again, there are things that you need to talk about earlier on in the relationship before you get married, so that you know where you are, where you're going, and it will build a very good standard, a very good base for your marriage, for your relationship. And then again, there's another thing I find that really brings problems in marriage is when you have conflicts. How do you solve them? How do you solve the conflicts? How do you talk about them? You're sleeping on the same bed every night? Do you sort out the issue before you go to sleep? The Bible says very clearly, do not let the sun go down on your anger. Do not let the issue carry on. Today, tomorrow, the day after, it's not being sorted out. Throw issues under the carpet. Maybe you talk about, maybe you're angry about something, and then you don't resolve it, and then you're probably still talking to your partner anyway, tomorrow, the day after, or whatever, and it carries on, and you haven't resolved that. So the day you get angry with them again, or the day they get angry with you again, then that issue gets brought up. Then then you bring it up again, and then, last time, you did this, and then this, or you're like this. And then it's like, it's such an issue, because if you don't solve it, it just carries on and on and on. So it's very important to solve an issue when it happens. Obviously, when everyone's cooled down, we don't want to be talking angrily over the other person, because now that makes it even worse. It makes it, you end up resenting them, or you end up even being even more angry at them, and so on and so forth. So you don't want to get to that. So obviously, it's always important to try and solve the issue very early on, as soon as you can, so that obviously you can move on, you can enjoy your marriage, you can enjoy your time, you can even have dinner together properly, have a laugh, and so on, and things like that. We're going to talk about things like sex in marriage. You're going to have to talk about that when you get married, before you get married. Sex in a lot of traditions, or in a lot of depending on the background one comes from, it's kind of a taboo. People don't really talk about it. People don't talk about sex. Sex is important in marriage. Sex is for procreation, of course, and the Bible says again, enjoy the wife of your youth. It also says, drink from your own system, from the book of Proverbs. So when it says drink from your own system, it means obviously have one wife, have one woman, enjoy your wife. I think that means that's in a sexual way, obviously. So it's very important to talk about sex in the marriage. What your partner likes. what she'd like you to do, or he would like you to do. I mean, if you don't talk about it and you just assume that it's just going to happen by itself, then again, they're going to maybe have their own ideas of how they want it to happen, or you're going to have your own ideas. And then if you haven't talked about it, when your spouse does something, you start thinking to yourself, oh, where did you get that from? Oh, are you being unfaithful? Or are you, I don't know, maybe watching pornography even? And or I don't know, where did you get that from? So, but if you're talking about it and you're talking about the sex and you're talking about how you'd like them to, what you'd like them to do to make, satisfy your sexual needs, then it's very clear so that they don't make a mistake. They don't, you don't get angry when they don't do what you would like them to do, so to speak. And, and it's very important in a marriage. I think sex is a very important thing in a marriage, and it's something, again, which people don't talk about, especially before they get married. In counseling, I think in counseling, again, it's really covered really well. If you obviously get a good marriage counselor who, before you get married, they will obviously take you through steps of the do's and the don'ts, what is expected in a marriage, on how to do. Marriage hasn't really got, a workbook, or, do you know what I mean? Oh, this is how it should be, or whatever. Everyone learns as they go along. In terms of, you learn the things. There's no manual, so that's the right word to use. There's no manual to use. But of course, there's the basic, there's the standards, there's things that that this is exactly what maybe someone should do in a marriage. But like in a marriage, that there's no manual, but that you should not cheat when you're in a marriage. I mean, things like that are very basic. So it's something very, people need to get into it with an open mind, and knowing that this is I'm here and I need to make my spouse happy. I need to do the best I can. And then you leave the rest to God, because obviously you bring God into the marriage, and the marriage is gonna work, it's gonna blossom. You're gonna have issues, but then again, you know how to solve them. Another thing, again, sticking on the sex issue in the marriage, couples you should not use sex as a tool when you're angry to satisfy your partner, so to speak, or to withhold it from your partner because you're angry at them, because you're not happy about something they've done. So you decide, what, we're not going to get intimate as a result of that because I'm angry at you. Or, of course, you've got to solve the issue that's brought the anger. But then again, you don't withhold that from them, because then that brings a lot of strain. Because again, there's a verse in the Bible which says, do not, withhold sex from your partner. Okay, I'm paraphrasing here, but do not hold your sex from your wife or your husband, unless if it is for prayer and fasting. Then again, after prayer and fasting, you will come together so that the devil might not tempt you. I mean, I've paraphrased it, but I know there's a vast scripture that says that. So of course, do not use anger when you're angry, not to give your partner sex because you're angry at them because of something they've done. So resolve the issue, pray about it, forgive each other, and then and God will bless you as you go along. God hates divorce. God has views in a marriage that is about not divorcing. It clearly says in the book of Isaiah that God hates divorce. But these issues are a way to solve issues in a marriage. That obviously, if you have problems in the marriage, go to a counselor, deal with them. And let God be the head of a marriage. Praying in a marriage, always, it's very important for a couple to pray in their marriage, to pray for the marriage, to pray for the spouse. We've always been told, or saying, I'm not sure if it's in the Bible, but it says that the couple that prays together, the family that prays together, stays together. Prayer is so important in the marriage. Whether you're praying corporately, as in together with your spouse, or praying for them when you're doing your prayer time on yourself or on your own. Very important to pray. Pray about issues. Pray about what you want to do. Pray about that land you want to buy. Pray about the job that you're looking for. Pray about the issue at work. Maybe there's someone who's giving your spouse or you an issue in your job. Pray about it. Bring it to God together in prayer. One can put 1,000 to flight, but two can put 10,000 to flight. So, of course, there's always... there's power in corporate prayer. There's power in when two people come together. It's always, obviously, you can pray on your own, but when you pray as a couple, when you pray together, that issue is obviously even, bring it to God, then it's always, it's more effective, because then you know what you're praying about. You've already spoken to your partner about it. They know your issue. Even when you're not there, they can carry on praying for you. So always pray together. Always pray together, no matter what it is. You can even pray about the food you're going to cook. It's very important to pray about, to involve God in every issue that you do in your marriage, so that that it is blessed. Marriage it's like a garden. It needs to be nurtured. It needs to be looked after. Set aside time for your partner. Read the Bible together. Even if you're not a Christian, the same rules in a marriage apply. Sitting together at a table, dinner time, talking to each other, setting up aside date nights. Maybe we say like once a week we're gonna have a date night. We're gonna spend that time together just to get to know each other. Go out with the environment. Go for a walk. And when you're outside there, you got a clear head. You got a clear mind. You know exactly what your what do you call it? You're away from your work. You're away from the environment of the four walls in your house. So it's very good. It's very good to have that time when you're with your partner, to get to know them, to get to know how they feel, to get to know what makes them tick. So having date nights, it's really important. Maybe it could be a Thursday evening. It could be, I don't know, it could be a lunch. Maybe even surprising them at work. Just to take them out for lunch, if obviously their working patterns and what they how much time they got off at lunchtime and so on and so forth. It brings a very big difference in a marriage when you have time for your partner, when you're setting aside date nights, when you're setting a time to be with them and to listen to their issues. And like when you come home, like as the husband, you bogged down the whole day. You've been at work. You all these things racing in your head and so on. But of course, if you sit there and you're trying to tell your wife how your day has been, and she's not even listening, it can be very obviously frustrating for the man, or even for the other way around, not necessarily for the man. But obviously, if you come home and you're talking to them and you know that they understand you and they know where you're coming from and they know how you feel and so on and so forth, then it makes it really, it makes a big difference, because this person cares about you. This person has their mind. They're thinking about you, and they know how you feel, and they're listening to you. So setting aside that time where you can be with your spouse and talk to them and listen to them and listen to their needs is very, very important. And it brings a marriage, it brings a couple together, and it makes them very tight in everything that they do. And you find the marriage will blossom. It'll go a very long way. Also things like buying them little gifts and appreciating them and buying them cards. You don't have to wait for Valentine's Day to buy them flowers. Of course, if you're the man, and they're the woman, because I know a lot of women, if not all, a lot of women love flowers. So, buying them flowers all the time. And not necessarily when you upset them is when you buy them flowers. But of course, when you upset them is even more important to make them feel nice, and, buy them something, little trinkets and little stuff that make them feel that they want, they're appreciated, they're liked. And, do you know what I mean? Make them tea if that's their favorite thing. Like once in a while, bring them tea without them knowing that you've done it. Without them asking for it. I don't know, running them a bath probably, if that's what they like when they come home. When you're sitting, rubbing their feet. These are very important things that people take. Once you're in a marriage, maybe for 2, 3, 4, I don't know how many years, you tend to take little things like this for granted, and you find that this is where complacency sets in, and you find that this is where now problems are coming in, because the person will start thinking, oh, are you looking somewhere else? Are you not? Where's your attention? Are you seeing someone? You're not appreciating me anymore? You're not the person I met. You're not the person I first knew. I've had that so many times. Oh, they're not the person that I knew. Obviously, if they're not the person you knew, sometimes it could be because time has evolved, they've changed, and so on and so forth. Of course, the body as well changes. The person you married when you first started off, maybe 10 years ago, will not look the same 10 years later or 15 years later. Of course, there will be an evolution, if you like. There'll be a change in their body or in the, but obviously in their romance and in the way you act with each other and in the things that they do for you, that shouldn't change really. That should be consistent time and time over and over again. When you have your time together with your partner, make sure that there's no interruptions. If you have kids, for instance, and you're already in a marriage where there's kids and the kids are growing up, you got a young family, so to speak, make sure that if you're setting time for your partner, you are away from interruptions of the phone, of the kids, of things like the TV. No one that doesn't come into the equation. You don't have the interruption, so that you have the full attention of your partner and in everything that you're doing, so that bond is there, so that you feel that you're wanted. They want you. You can make them dinner once in a while. You can surprise them. It doesn't have to be always the woman is the one who's cooking. It doesn't always be always the man is the one who's cooking. Those roles can be shared. And then again, I've known of couples where the husband is the one who stays at home and the wife goes to work. I mean, it doesn't happen very, very often, but I know a few people who have met and they've told me that they're happy. They've decided that from when they started off in their relationship, maybe the wife had a career which was a very high-paying job, for instance, and they work in a very prestigious company. So, and they want to raise a family, and they started a family, or they've got young kids. So it is easier for the man to be at home as the house husband and do the roles of what the wife would have done. So the wife can go out to work. So it is important that if the woman is the one who has that high-paying job or has that job and she's the one who's bringing home the bacon, that she doesn't make the man feel inferior. She doesn't make the man feel like, she's the one who's married to the man. There's always that bit where the man is the head of the house, and obviously the woman, as we said, the woman is the neck. So they make decisions together, but always the respect and that thing that the man feels that he's the head of the house. He can kind of make the decisions, and the woman, supports, even though she's the one bringing home more money than the man doesn't feel like he's inferior. But obviously that's something, again, you need to talk about before you get married, so that everyone knows what is expected of them. Everyone knows that this is where we are with this, and this is obviously how we're gonna go on, so that 10 years from now, it doesn't bring a strain into the marriage. It doesn't cause any issues to any of you. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your time. This is the first of many podcasts I'm going to have. Subscribe to our channel. Hope you're blessed. Share and click the like button.